across a variety of different industries. And we're proud to welcome Pape Dawson Engineers to that list of outstanding firms. Pape Dawson is one of Texas's finest and most respected engineering firms, and now the company is expanding its presence here in Dallas. Whether you're looking for civil engineering, transportation, water resources, environmental, or surveying projects, Pape Dawson has the experience needed to get the job done. What's more, Pape Dawson is committed to responsible corporate citizenship in the communities they serve. So if you need an engineer, do yourself a favor and call my friend Brad Davis here in Dallas at 214-420-8494 today. And tell him Ryan told you to call. Pape Dawson, where the people make the difference.
Welcome back. This is Deconstructing Dallas. Shawn Williams. I am with Christina Geyer. She is the Dallas editor-in-chief of Paper City magazine. You know, Christina, you talked a little bit. You alluded to the state of journalism, and 2008, 2009 was really a tumultuous time. I think about I was on with a group called the Sense Makers, and we went to St. Petersburg, Florida, to the Poynter Institute to talk about what's next and what are the next steps in journalism. And it has really, there's really still no answer, but yet Paper City's managed to thrive, and you guys are still putting out a print edition, which everybody's not doing these days. So what has been I won't say the secret, but what has been the formula for you guys to be able to maintain in such, tumultuous times?
So I think national publications, so your Vogue, your Wall Street Journal, your New York Times, they have a much different challenge than regional publications. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, Paper City and the people making business decisions have been really savvy in knowing that we have a captive audience. And so we live in this age now, and the way I look at it is we live in this age of the quote-unquote influencer. Mm-hmm. And right now that means the very stylish girl on Instagram with 1.3 million followers. But in talking to a lot of different people in the business, advertisers, writers, editors, I think there's this shift right now going back to this quote-unquote micro-influencer. So the influencer that might not have the 1.3 million followers, right, but has the 500,000 followers, but they're really engaged. And so when you look at a publication like Paper City and our reader loyalty mm-hmm. and our captive audience and the niche that we've been able to build, that is still in high demand when you talk about advertisers or you right. talk about strategic partners. And so knowing that our reader is the most affluent, well-educated group of individuals in the city, both in Dallas and in Houston, has really helped keep us on a solid platform. So there's still the demand for big brands wanting to extend their brand in the magazine mm-hmm. through traditional advertising. I think also the big question I asked before deciding to come back and take on this job was, what is our digital strategy? Right. Digital is really important, and having a flexible enough platform to be able to pivot quickly is also really important. And about a year before I started back at Paper City, the company made a really big investment into its digital product. Okay. And I think a lot of companies, it's the chicken before the egg. It's, do we put the big investment into the platform, knowing that if our team has the right tools to create really engaging content, that the advertisers and the revenue will come? A lot of people have a hard time biting that bullet. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's when you look at some of these bigger publications, that was their trick. And so Paper City was really wise in that they invested in digital and really revamping the product to make it something that is accessible and desirable. The newsletters that we send out on a daily basis, I think now we're up to 5 a week. The number of people I hear that are like, oh, I read that in your newsletter. Right. It's huge. And it's mm-hmm. not just your millennial that you would think is online. It's the 80-year-old grand dame of Dallas society that's reading it on her iPad. And
which is why it's important to be totally multi-platform, because some people like email. I hate email. Some people are going to get it on Instagram. It's like now you have to be everywhere.
Yeah, and so I think that's part of the success is really marrying print and digital in terms of a brand and looking 360. I mean, you hear about this all the time now, 360 experience, yada, yada, yada. And in my opinion, I read something recently and someone said, oh, in the world of publishing, you talk about it's all about experience now. It's all about experience, which it's true. I think if you're in the magazine business and you don't do events, if you're not finding engaging ways to work with your partners differently than just traditional advertising in print or online, then you're totally stale. But I love this because I wish I could remember who said it, but the idea of picking up a magazine, a hard copy magazine, and flipping through the pages in and of itself is an experience. And that's something that I think we need to not forget in the industry, and that we really value at Paper City is we respect people's time with the product. The print product still remains so strong because every inch of that magazine is well thought out. It's not advertorial disguised as editorial. It's authentic, real work, whether it's a beautiful portfolio of images that our creative director has put together, or it's a really thoughtful story about gay culture in Dallas, or it's a fun, fluffy group of photos from the hottest gala in town. Every single second that someone spends with our book, we want them to feel like they gained something from it. And so that, coupled with really smart business practices, we're a lean team. But we're a smart team. We have a dedicated digital editor here in Dallas, which I think is also really important. You can't always expect that your print team is going to pick up the slack of digital. There has to be balance there. My print team here contributes to the digital product regularly, and they love to, but it's 60-40 print to digital. And so having that balance and making sure that the brand feels really integrated. And we do events with partners. We have an event called Texas Design Week, which is now, I believe, in its 5th or 6th year in Dallas. We do it in Dallas and in Houston, and it's an entire week that revolves around an entity called the Dallas Design Awards, where we invite submissions in different categories for interior design and then allow a panel of nationally known, internationally known judges to independently choose the winner. And then we announce them at a big event, and surrounding that event are different panels, book signings, talks, and we partner with the design industry in the city on that event. And it's a great way for us to diversify revenue, but extend the brand and connect with people that are both reading our magazine, being featured in our magazine. So in terms of experience, I think that's really important. But at the end of the day, if we fail to remember that the actual magazine itself, and whether it's you go to our website, what is that experience like when you get there, or if you pick up our book, what is that experience like? If you sacrifice that quality, you're done. And I hate saying this, but there's so many national magazines that I used to read religiously that I will not pick up anymore, because I think there's been a lot of sacrifice on the quality to either get things done quicker or appease advertisers, and it loses value. And so I think, we're very fortunate in Dallas that we have the ability to maintain strong editorial, while also being able to still see the importance of visibility within the market, relationships with our advertisers, and capitalize on the fact that we are the oldest game in Dallas, and we have buy-in from the community, and we do a tremendous effort in recruiting that new reader online that then will become our print reader that keeps it on their keeps the magazine on the coffee table in their Highland Park mansion 10 years from now. So it's definitely a mix of all things.
Now, we talked a little bit about in the first segment, even when we in between the break, we talked about you going to SMU and the program there. Like, what do you tell students? What do you tell people who are interested in getting into journalism or fashion writing? What is your advice to them?
Don't get into it unless you love it and you want to live and breathe it and work your tail off for it, because it is not the industry to get into if you want to make $1 billion or if you want to get a big fat bonus at the end of every year. You don't do this job for the money. None of us do. Everybody that we work with here, and everybody that I've worked with throughout my career, they do this work because they're passionate about the stories that they're telling, about the brand that they're representing, about the impact that our magazine has on the community, on the city, on kind of the web of the history of Dallas. So don't get into it if you want to be rolling in the dough. That's not it.
Right.
You can be very successful, though. I think I've been able to sustain myself. I'm not living on, I think there's a big misconception. Well, it's probably actually a fair perception of the industry that a lot of people, especially in New York, that work for these big national fashion magazines and women's magazines, that they're, riding on the coattails of a wealthy family or a spouse. And to an extent, I think there is a lot of that in the business. But if you work really hard, there's no reason why someone like me, who is not sitting in family money or doesn't have a spouse, can't make a living for themselves that's sustainable. But you have to pay your dues.
Right.
I have a younger brother who wants to go into interior design, and it's a very similar industry in that you have to start at the very bottom.
Absolutely.
You have to be willing to do the hard work. You have to be willing to work the long hours, and it doesn't get any easier. The higher up you get, it just gets harder. And so I think part of it is, the first is understand that if you don't have the passion for it, don't do it. But also make connections and be nice. I think that's another, people come in the office for the first time and they think they're going to walk into Devil Wears Prada. And I tell them, no, half the time I'm here in jeans and a t-shirt or workout clothes if it's a really busy deadline
day. Not today, so I guess I should feel good because you're not.
Yeah, I had some meetings this morning, so I had to put on real clothes. But no, I think that's another big thing is that everybody in this industry is actually really nice. There's that Devil Wears Prada stigma that everybody that works in fashion or everybody that works in magazines has to be this stressed out jerk. And that's not true at all. The reason I am where I'm sitting right now is because I worked really hard, but I maintained relationships with the people that I worked for. I left Paper City the first time to go work for one of the magazine's direct competitors, and the owners of Paper City didn't come back several years later and ask me to be their editor-in-chief, because I was mean or nasty.
Right. Exactly.
You maintain those relationships, and I think at the end of the day, being nice goes a long way, and being respectful to the people that work for you. I'm pretty young to be in the position that I'm in. I was young when I was named editor-in-chief. I was 27 years old, I think, and I remember thinking, gosh, people are, we switched formats of the magazine a year into my job here. We went from broadsheet to perfect bound, and I was so nervous with that debut issue. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, people are either going to think this is really good for someone who's only 27 or this is terrible, but they have a young editor. And the response that I got from the community when that debut perfect bound issue came out in September of 2016 was so overwhelmingly kind. PR people, advertisers, people that are now friends that were colleagues, the amount of support that goes around you.
Right.
And I really do believe that what you put out comes back. And so if you support other people, they support you. And so when I talk to students, I think it's important to remember, be kind to others, be kind to yourself. This is an industry where burnout is rampant. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to go very far in the long run. So yeah, it's just a combination of put the energy out that you want to get back. And it really is true.
Well, for those folks who want to get the magazine, to find you online, find the magazine online, to find you online, like what are some of the ways people can find you guys? So
the website is papercitymag.com, and you can find Dallas, Houston, both editions at that URL, or Paper City Dallas on Instagram, which is probably the best way to find us. You can search Paper City Dallas on Facebook as well. For me personally, I'm Christina M. Geyer on Instagram and all other social channels, LinkedIn,
Excellent.
Facebook, all of that good stuff. But yeah, it's papercitymag.com.
Well, this has been fascinating look at one of the really true sought-after publications in town, and something that people talk about, and you guys do a really good job. And so I want to thank you for taking the time to come on with us today.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I'm lucky to do what I get to do every day.
Absolutely. This is Deconstructing Dallas. Shawn Williams, still waiting for Ryan Trimble to come back.